give us 1 second for YouTube to get ready to stream us here. And okay, I see us all live on YouTube. And I have to mute that because I'm hearing myself talking to myself, which is strange. And let me just share that link with the public here, oops, on Twitter.
While you're doing that, do we have any update on Commissioner Bob?
Nothing on my side. Deborah, do you have an update regarding Commissioner Bob?
I'm sending him another note.
So Chairman Hart, other than waiting on Commissioner Bob, we are now live on YouTube as well as having our a number of attendees here on Zoom. So once we address that, you should be set to call the meeting to order.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm ready to go whenever everybody gets on. We'll give it a couple more minutes and then we'll start. If he hasn't been able to join, we'll let him join us when he can, but we'll start at 12:35. 2-minute warning.
And he's asking, yes, he has to put in his WMSC email, right?
Correct.
He received the email from me. He should just be able to click the link in it and come right into the public session and then get promoted.
Okay, it's 12:35, so in respect of everybody's time, I'm going to go ahead and get started. I will call this remote meeting of the Washington Metro Rail Safety Commission to order with my remote gavel. Ms. Foltz, would you please poll the commissioners to see if we have a quorum?
Thank you, Chairman Hart. Because we're meeting remotely, I will call the roll to make sure that we have a quorum and then that the minutes accurately reflect today's participants. When I call your name, please answer with present. I will pause briefly as we call the roll to account for any delay in transmission. Chairman Hart.
Present.
Commissioner Bob.
He just entered.
Okay, I'll pause for a moment. And Commissioner Bob is showing up on my screen. Commissioner Bob, if you could please just unmute yourself briefly. We are calling the roll. Good afternoon, and just want to confirm, Commissioner Bob, that you are present.
He appears to be muted again.
Yes.
Thank you.
Very good.
Commissioner Contestable. Commissioner Farrar Dyke.
Present.
Thank you. Commissioner Hall.
Present.
Commissioner Al-Khatib.
Present.
And Commissioner Rush. Are there any other commissioners or alternate commissioners with us this afternoon?
Allison, can you call Commissioner Contestable again?
I will. Commissioner Contestable, are you present?
Yes, I'm present.
Great, thank you very much. Chairman Hart, we have a quorum.
Thank you very much. Now I'll turn the microphone over to Dr. Meyer for the safety message. Dr. Meyer?
So we normally give a safety message at this time, usually about the room we're all meeting in, but even though we're not meeting in person, I'll give a safety message relevant to the current situation. Social distancing means keeping space between yourself and other people, particularly outside your home. To practice social distance or physical distancing, stay at least 6 feet, about 2 arms length from other people. Do not gather in groups. Stay out of crowded places and avoid mass gatherings. Wear a face covering that completely covers your mouth and nose when you're out and about. And when you wear a face covering, put it on and leave it on to avoid contamination, cross-contamination. Don't fiddle with your face covering once you have it on. In addition to everyday steps to prevent COVID-19, like washing your hands, keeping space between you and others, these are some of the best tools that we have to avoid being infected with the virus and to slow its spread locally and across our country and the world. That's the end of my safety message.
So with that safety message, I hope that no one has been adversely affected by COVID yet, and I hope you will continue to stay safe. With that, I will turn the mic over to Commissioner Farrar Dyke, our Secretary Treasurer, for the approval of the minutes of the March 12 meeting. Commissioner Farrar Dyke.
Good afternoon. The minutes were posted for your review. Are there any corrections or additions to the minutes? I approve the approval of the March 12th minutes as circulated. Is there a second?
I'll second.
I will ask our General Counsel, Allison Foltz, to conduct the roll call vote.
Thank you very much. Commissioner Hart.
Approve.
Commissioner Bob.
Approve.
Commissioner Contestable.
Approve.
Commissioner Farrar Dyke.
Approve.
Commissioner Hall.
Approve.
Thank you very much. The minutes are approved.
Thank you. I'll now move on to public comments. We provide an opportunity for public comments at each of our meetings, and we will now ask if any members of the public who have joined our Zoom webinar would like to speak. If you would, please use the raised hand feature in the Zoom link, and then our staff will unmute one person at a time. Each person will have a maximum of 2 minutes. I will pause now to see if we have anyone who would like to make a public comment. Ms. Hogan, do we see anyone who wants to make a public comment?
No, I see no hands raised.
Okay, thank you. We will now continue with the next agenda item, which is my remarks. First, I'd like to welcome everybody to the May public meeting of the Washington Metrorail Safety Commission. During today's meeting, we will hear about an NTSB action that confirms the significant role that the WMSC has achieved in providing the safety oversight and enforcement authority of WMATA Metrorail. We will also learn about these plans, the pandemic procedure, that have been put into place by WMATA and how these plans are being implemented and how the Washington Metrorail Safety Commission is adjusting its safety oversight during this time. We will also introduce the WMSC staff members, and the commissioners will also be briefed on new findings being issued today pertaining to safety concerns in the Rail Operations Control Center. We will also get an update on our safety certification of the Silver Line Phase 2 project. And finally, the commissioners will have an opportunity to approve the WMSC fiscal year 2021 budget and work plan. Dr. Meyer, do you have any opening remarks?
Yes, thank you, Chair Hart, I do. First, I'd like to highlight an action, as you mentioned, from the National Transportation Safety Board that demonstrates the significant role that we've played in oversight of the Metrorail system in our first 14 months since FTA certification. The NTSB has paid close attention to the WMSC safety oversight work in our inaugural year and has now closed 2 urgent safety recommendations that they issued in the wake of the January 2015 electrical arcing and smoke accident near L'Enfant Plaza Station, closing those recommendations as no longer applicable. The NTSB found that our oversight is achieving the crucial aims of their 2015 recommendations, which called for Federal Railroad Administration oversight of Metrorail. Our swift actions following the Farragut West train collision last October and the findings we issued in December after a smoke event resembling the 2015 L'Enfant Plaza accident demonstrate that we are fully exercising our safety oversight and enforcement authority as we continue to strive to improve the safety of customers, employees, contractors, and all others served by Metrorail. In summary, the NTSB found that the WMSC is now providing the robust level of safety oversight that they were looking for when they issued the safety recommendations. The staff and I are very proud to be playing such a crucial role for the region. We're also pleased, on a different note, to announce receipt of the FTA Federal Fiscal Year 2018 State Safety Oversight Grant Award, which we received on May 1st, 2020. And the total available under that award is $3.6 million. This amount includes the federal fiscal year 18 apportionment, as well as all of the unspent federal funds from prior grant years that had been previously awarded to COG. Turning to the current pandemic, we have, of course, been continuing our safety oversight activities for the Metrorail system. Our Chief Operating Officer, Ms. Samara Singha, and I remain in regular and direct contact with WMATA Chief Safety Officer Teresa Impastado and her staff. Our meetings and phone calls have focused lately on Metrorail's pandemic planning and response, but also continue to include other important topics like last fall's collision near Farragut West Station. Metro's pandemic plans have involved with and in accordance with federal, state, and local guidance. And Metro now recommends that all customers wear a face covering. We have all seen how the virus has impacted our lives, and I would like to acknowledge Metrorail's efforts to purchase additional protective equipment starting in January and February, and their ongoing focus on a comprehensive and transparent response to the pandemic. It has been particularly important that Metrorail management has worked closely with employees, including ATU Local 689, the agency's largest union representing frontline workers. Many workers are now working in an alternating A-B schedule paradigm meant to keep workers separated so that at least some would remain available in the event another group is exposed. We at the WMSC are, of course, not medical experts, but we are safety experts, and we are maintaining that role as we review and the response, Metro's response, to ensure that hazards that could develop are properly addressed and mitigated. As background, Metrorail has now closed 19 stations and significantly reduced scheduled service and operating hours, and has limited maintenance activities to only those that Metrorail deems essential. Rail ridership is down more than 90%. As a result of the reduced service, Metro is operating fewer rail cars each day than usual and is only operating its newest 7000 series fleet. All other rail cars, the legacy rail cars, are being stored in rail yards and not being used. Our staff is conducting oversight activities, examining issues like whether the trains are being stored safely and in accordance with Metrorail policies. And we are working with Metro to learn how these cars that have been taken out of service will be maintained during this period so that they will be safe and ready for revenue service when train service eventually increases again. We are also monitoring changes to Metro's summer shutdown plans. This week, Metro announced plans for numerous segment shutdowns along the green and yellow lines starting next month. Each segment will be closed for 1 to 2 weeks each, and more similar segment shutdowns are expected elsewhere in the system later in the summer and possibly beyond. Some of this work can help make up for reduced efficiencies due to social distancing protections and for some of the work that had been put off as non-essential during the initial pandemic response. The new plan announced last month for the largest summer shutdown means that there will be no train service west of Ballston Station on the Orange and Silver lines beginning May 23rd. That's a week from Saturday. Originally, Metro had planned a single track through East Falls Church and West Falls Church stations. While we cannot yet say how this decision will impact the actual work that's planned, I do want to acknowledge a key safety benefit of the change. Metrorail staffing availability has been significantly limited by the pandemic, particularly in the Rail Operations Control Center, where staffing was already thin. We have previously expressed concerns about the ROC, including in our December findings following a red line smoke response that ended up proceeding in a manner that was reminiscent of the fatal 2015 accident near L'Enfant Plaza Station. Those December findings specifically focused on ROC management and leadership, something we've reiterated to Metrorail over the last few months. In a few minutes, we'll present new and additional findings about the ROC that we've identified since the start of this year. With control center staffing stretched even more due to the current pandemic, eliminating the complicated and consistent communication that would be required for single tracking through the summer could greatly reduce the risk of a serious safety event. The operations with Ballston as an end-of-line station will reduce the workload and increase safety of the system. We thank Metrorail for recognizing again in their presentation materials recently released for their board meeting this week that safe continuous single tracking was not possible due to the current limitations in the ROC. Another element of work that could be done this summer involves the Silver Line Phase 2 signals tie-in work at Willie, Reston East Station. Our subject matter expert, Mr. Sahu, will provide more details on that in a few minutes. Metrorail has not set an end date for the summer shutdown work. It is dependent on construction policies related to the current health emergency, among other issues. Metrorail has assured us that they are working with all contractors to require health safety plans and to ensure that those plans are followed. Our immediate focus here remains on the health and safety of Metrorail employees, passengers, and contractors. More generally, we understand that later this week, Metro expects to outline options for months-long plans to gradually return toward more normal operations. Like most of our return to the new normal, this will certainly not be a light switch flipping back on. Those plans are based on the models being used by DC, Maryland, and Virginia that show potential peaks for confirmed COVID-19 cases and hospitalizations in our region sometime between now and early fall. Metro's plans project a return to something closer to normal operations sometime next year, but those plans could still shift. That also means Metro plans to remain on reduced hours and reduced service levels for months more at a minimum. Metrorail currently estimates the first significant increase from today's service levels may happen between August and October. That would include somewhat more frequent service with still limited hours. The 19 stations currently closed would also reopen. We understand that Metrorail's goal of increasing service ahead of ridership is to encourage and ensure adequate social distancing. The WMSC will carefully review Metrorail's plans to ramp service back up again, including checking that any retraining required for employees or contractors is planned and accomplished as required. Our priority, as always, remains the safety of everyone who depends on Metrorail, including our own staff. Over the last 2 months, we've been working to develop new ways to conduct inspections and to examine the data collected in the Metrorail system. As demonstrated by this online meeting, our staff were also meeting remotely on a daily basis to continue to share information and ensure proper safety oversight in a way that does not put our staff, Metrorail staff, or contractors or the public at risk. When we do return to normal operations, the WMSC headquarters will be moving. Since our last meeting, we have successfully executed an office space lease and build-out work is beginning in the new office space. Our new offices will be located at 750 First Street Northeast. We also have a few new staff members who have joined us, who we look forward to welcoming as soon as it is safe to do so to those new offices. Well before the pandemic, we began recruiting for several positions necessary for our work, and I would like to introduce 3 of our new team members today. Richard David started work for us on March 30th. Richard comes to us as a former captain in the Fairfax County Fire and Rescue Department. He was most recently assigned by the fire department as a fire department liaison at Metro's Rail Operations Control Center. He also served 22 years with the fire department and is a veteran of the U.S. Air Force and National Guard, and we are excited to have him. Needless to say, he adds enormously to our capability to evaluate emergency response and preparedness. Richard's official designation at the WMSC is Program Specialist, and we've also asked him to serve as the WMSC's own safety officer to help make sure that we are doing everything we can now and always to keep ourselves safe. Next is Adam Quigley. Adam joined the WMSC on April 6 as Program Specialist. He brings a wealth of knowledge in rail transit operations, as well as experience in railroad operations from his time at Amtrak and Bombardier Transportation. Adam's most recent professional role was with Metrorail as a utility assistant superintendent in the Rock. And finally, Max Smith, our new communications director, joined the WMSC on April 20th. Max is probably familiar to most of you as he formerly worked for local news radio station WTOP covering transportation, as well as Virginia state and local governments. So welcome all of you. As a final note, we are finalizing the inspection reports for inspections our staff conducted during the first quarter of the current calendar year, essentially before we went into our telework status. These reports will be posted to our public website very soon. Unless there are questions for me, Ms. Samara Singha can now provide details on how we're planning to continue our work in the coming weeks and months to ensure that our safety oversight continues without creating any unnecessary risk for our staff, Metrorail workers, or the public.
Excuse me, Ms. Singha. We've had another commissioner join the line. Allison, can you?
Yes, if alternate Commissioner Rush could please unmute so that we can complete the roll.
Sorry about that.
No, we'd just like you to indicate that you are indeed present.
I am present, sort of.
Great. Well, thank you very much. So noted.
Any questions for me on anything that I briefed you on?
I would like to take the chair's prerogative to also welcome the 3 new employees to WMSC. We look forward to working with you, and we look forward to what you bring to help us do our job better. Thank you.
All 3 have really hit the ground running and are already serving as very important contributors and asset to the organization. Mr. Chair, with your permission, I would suggest we move on to Ms. Samara Singha's remarks.
Okay, Ms. Samara Singha, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Chair Hart, and thank you, Dr. Meyer. First, I would like to applaud the dedication of Metrorail's frontline employees, supervisors, and the entire Metrorail family to providing essential service during this crisis. Since it is becoming more and more apparent that we will be in this phase of response to the health emergency long term, we are planning for what Metro expects to be a sustained period of reduced rail service and operations. Metrorail is implementing new worker schedule picks for these new reduced service levels and expects to use an approximately 2-month lead time for any significant service changes. While this is not a schedule and the infection and hospitalization rates will be the ultimate guide, given all the different aspects of reopening, a full return to normal service levels is not projected right now until well into next year. Since this could go on for a while, we have developed a protocol for use in the event of a Metrorail accident or other serious event where it would be difficult for both Metrorail and WMSC investigators to respond at the same time while still maintaining social distance. The protocol outlines how we would ensure the collection of data, participation in interviews through video calls if necessary, and other measures to ensure the integrity of the investigations that the commissioners approve. The protocol also requires vehicles and equipment not be released from an accident site without express WMSC approval. These procedures are some of the first of their kind, showing that we at the WMSC are leading the way nationally in state safety oversight response during COVID-19. Later in the meeting, we will be asking to vote of seeking a vote of the commissioners to authorize the issuance of this protocol as an official WMSC directive and order. It is important to note, though, that this is just a preparation in case of an accident or other safety or serious event. Although we are monitoring a number of issues that have occurred over the last 2 months, the overall number of safety events has declined with reduced service and lower ridership. We continue to review Metrorail's written policies and their pandemic response plans and the additional pieces being developed as the scope of this challenge continues to evolve. Last month, Metro received the first masks from its additional orders placed in February. These masks are being issued on an as-needed basis to personnel who cannot perform their essential duties without close contact. In this case, close contact means spending more than 10 minutes at a distance of less than 6 feet away from another person. The WMSC has also worked with Metrorail leaders to ensure workers' concerns that we receive periodically about social distancing issues or getting replacement masks when needed continue to be properly addressed. Metro has published a public dashboard of COVID-19 cases. It is important to note that the list only includes employee cases, not those of contractors or customers. The dashboard also only includes cases that have been confirmed by a physician or public health officials. Metro counts more than 80 confirmed cases by that measure since mid-March, with about a quarter of those people with confirmed cases recovered and back to work. Still, the Chief Safety Officer has informed us that Metrorail is looking into other potential cases, including in work locations where Metrorail workers have raised concerns with the WMSC. Metrorail has instituted a station and facility disinfecting program that is used in the event of likely exposure so that work crews do not, likely exposure and expanded regular cleaning measures. Metrorail has informed us that some initial issues like access to Rail Operations Control Center for sanitation have been addressed. For frontline workers, Metrorail is now allowing the use of personal vehicles to report to work locations so that work crews do not need to pile into a Metrorail fleet vehicle. And after the WMSC expressed a concern that some workers were unaware of the new policy, Metrorail management has recently worked to ensure that employees are aware that they are now permitted to use personal vehicles. Metrorail is also looking at the process for ongoing cleaning of stations and trains as riders return to the system to be sure that cleaning done while the system is open is done in a safe manner. For us at the WMSC, as Dr. Meyer mentioned, there are several areas where we have significantly increased our work over the last 2 months. For example, we have been even more frequent discussions with Metrorail Safety Department, and we have increased our monitoring of WMATA's radio procedures. Our subject matter experts are also more frequently interacting with their Metrorail counterparts to check on inspections, preventative maintenance, and other work Metrorail is prioritizing to keep a state of good repair in spite of currently restricted work activities. We have also been able to do some inspections from afar, for example, at outdoor facilities. On another note, the FTA has effectively extended the deadline for the Public Transportation Agency Safety Plan, the new PTAS, from July to the end of this year. Metrorail has been making progress on the development of this plan, and we look forward to reviewing the final version. The plan must meet our standards for approval and be approved by the WMSC commissioners. That completes this update. Do you have any questions for me?
Do any of the commissioners have any questions for Ms. Samar Singh regarding what she just, the presentation she just gave? Okay, hearing none,
I
I'll turn-
I have a question,
yes, please, Commissioner.
John Tespel. Sharmila, when do you expect that we might see a draft of the PTASP? Sometime this summer? I'd like to have the opportunity to review it before it comes before the commission for approval.
Yes, Commissioner Contestable. So the WMSC has seen the first two versions of the Public Transportation Agency Safety Plan as WMATA developed it. And it was at that juncture that all of us went into the remote work operation and arrangement, as well as Metro's focus shifted towards the phase 3 of COVID-19 mitigations. And the plan is that WMATA will comply with the new deadline that has been set. And as an interim milestone, Metro plans on bringing their final version, for which we would have given their approval, conditional approval, to their board in the fall, which means we will be able to review at least one or more sets of revisions between now and that time frame in the fall. And certainly we will make sure that we make available to you and the other commissioners the various revised versions as they're developed and improved based on our feedback to Metro.
Okay, thank you.
Any further questions from any other commissioners? Okay, hearing none, I'll return the mic to Ms. Samar Singh to tell us about what we're doing on corrective action plans. Ms. Samar Singh.
Thank you, Chair Hart. Corrective action plans are designed to ensure continuous safety improvement at Metrorail. The WMSC has issued 4 sets of findings so far that have required 35 separate corrective action plans. One of these caps that I know is extremely important to you, Chair Hart, was for Metrorail to institute and enforce an effective employee hours of service policy. Metrorail has made significant progress on this. Limiting hours worked and ensuring employees have adequate opportunities to rest between shifts makes the entire system much safer. Federal laws governing freight or intercity railroad employees' hours of service date back to 1907, but there is no similar rule for local transit systems such as Metrorail. We are glad that talks are continuing with union leaders about the exact details of Metrorail's proposals, and that Metrorail still plans to finalize the policies soon. Implementing parts of this policy in the short term will be easier now, since workers are generally on alternate day shifts, but it will continue to apply as service ramps up again. Once this policy is in place, the WMSC would be on the leading edge, if not the first SSOA, successfully requiring a local transit agency to deploy this type of more strict hours of service and fatigue management rule. Not all of the changes we are requiring go so smoothly, though. It took several months for Metrorail to understand that our finding on the dysfunction at the ROCC, issued in December, was focused on serious management issues. We have gone back and forth with WMATA on this proposal to address this and are still awaiting an acceptable corrective action plan. The WMSC will ensure that changes will actually cover all leadership positions. After further investigation, we have also identified additional safety issues in the ROCC that must be corrected. That is leading us to issue our 5th set of findings today. If there are no questions from me, I would like to turn to Dr. Meyer to outline those major findings and concerns.
Are there any questions from any? Thank you for that presentation, Ms. Marsinga, and also thank you for, as I requested, expanding our look at fatigue beyond just are they complying with hours of service and looking at the big picture to see are they actually fatigued. So I appreciate that.
Of
So
course.
with that, are there any questions of Ms. Marsinga regarding those the findings and what's happened with them? Any questions from the commissioners? Okay, seeing none, I'll turn the mic back over to Dr. Meyer regarding additional findings that we're looking at in this meeting. Dr. Meyer?
As Ms. Samara Singha notes, we have uncovered new safety concerns in the Rail Operations Control Center. Today, we are issuing 3 of the most serious findings that require urgent action by WMATA Metrorail. We came to these conclusions through our regular inspection and oversight program, and also through special interviews that we conducted with 80% of Metro's rail controllers that were conducted through early March. We also spoke with ROC leadership. As we warned in December, and as earlier investigations have also concluded, chaos and dysfunction in the control center during unplanned events is a major concern, and one that puts riders, workers, and first responders at unnecessary risk. Although Metro has made some progress, particularly regarding the controllers themselves, serious issues remain. So our 3 new ROC findings are, number 1, premature power restoration. Metrorail has re-energized third rail power while workers or others are still on the roadway. Metrorail must stop this dangerous practice. We have found this frequently occurs because checklists are discouraged by managers and supervisors forcefully direct controllers to ignore proper procedures in order to rush to put tracks back into service. The significant concerns about decisions to ignore checklists are the times that those checklists are needed most, and we outline those in our December findings. During nearly all controllers we interviewed said ROC management routinely directs them to violate safety rules, including rules meant to prevent electrocution, derailments, collisions, or train movement with open doors. When it comes to power restoration, ROC managers seem to be rushing to restore train service rather than taking care to ensure that it's safe to restore power. It appears to us that on-time performance is more important to ROC leadership than safety. We are aware that Metro's chief safety officer has been working with Metro's IT department to develop a better solution, and we're pleased with that work, but we're issuing today's finding in hope that this important work will remain on track. Finding 2, control center management is regularly taking remote control of control center consoles without coordinating tray movement plans. This could lead to miscommunication and other risks. Rail controllers we interviewed described the remote operations of their consoles as a common occurrence, even as they are managing a complicated incident. This means, as we just noted, power could be taken down or restored incorrectly, and it can also lead to trains being routed down the wrong track or other issues. The remote manipulation of consoles was also a regular occurrence during last summer's blue and yellow line shutdowns. Uncoordinated remote manipulation of controller consoles is a safety concern, and it must stop. Finding 3, rail controllers do not have emergency ventilation fan playbooks and are not prepared to use the vent fans. Although this was a serious issue identified after the 2015 L'Enfant Plaza smoke event 5 years ago, many controllers are still not comfortable with their training and readiness to use the vent fans. Nearly all controllers we interviewed said their training on the use of ventilation fans was inadequate. Only a few of the controllers were familiar with the playbook on emergency fan operations that Metrorail developed after the L'Enfant Plaza event. The clear lack of readiness to respond, particularly to smoke and fire events, could lead to a repeat of the January 2015 event or worse. Yesterday, we conducted a follow-up interview with the ROC director about some of those issues. As in past discussions, ROC leadership has expressed a lack of confidence in the controllers rather than viewing the chaos and the documentation deficiencies in the ROC as something that is driven by management. Despite our prior direction, recommendations from the NTSB and findings from the FTA over the last 5 years, the ROC director told the WMSC that ROC management might allow the controllers to use checklists in some circumstances. After the Red Line riders were unnecessarily stuck in a slow crawl near a fire in December, it took several months for Metrorail to understand that our December findings were focused on management issues. Although Metrorail has developed another round of proposed corrective action plans to address those findings after significant revisions and directions from the WMSC, we remain concerned that even the latest proposals may not ensure that the change gets to all ROC leaders. All levels of management in the ROC must be properly trained to recognize the importance of following checklists and procedures. Those checklists and procedures become even more important in an emergency, not less. We sincerely hope that these new, equally clear findings we've issued today will be dealt with through plans that are developed more expeditiously. Metrorail now has 30 days to propose corrective action plans for these new findings that we've issued. And I would pause and ask if there are any questions about these new findings.
Do any of the commissioners have any questions for Dr. Meyer regarding his presentation? Okay, hearing none. Back to you, Dr. Meyer.
Well, I will turn it back over to Sharmila Samarasinha to complete our updates on other CAPs, other corrective action plans.
Thank you, Dr. Meyer. Following the October 7th, 2019 collision near Farragut West Station, the WMSC issued findings, including the one warning of insufficient protections against the unauthorized movement of trains with lost speed commands. After many rounds of instruction from the WMSC, we have just received a viable CAP proposal from Metrorail on that front that the WMSC is now reviewing for final approval. Our track audit approved in February required Metro to produce 16 corrective action plans to address the 16 findings. To this point, Metro has proposed effective solutions that would address 7 of the findings and has shown evidence that 1 finding will not require an additional corrective action plan. However, on the remaining 8 findings, Metrorail's initial proposed solutions were not sufficient. Metro has since proposed improved CAPs, which the WMSC is reviewing. Overall, there are currently 54 open CAPs, and more will be added once the WMSC determines the proposed CAPs are sufficient to address each finding. That concludes the overview of these CAPs. Are there any questions?
Do any of the commissioners have any questions for Ms. Samarasinha? I have a question myself. Would you remind us what you mean by lost speed command? What is that? And how does it happen?
Yes, Chairman Hart. So following the October 7th collision, we concluded based on the preliminary findings that the speed readouts that the train operator was receiving in the operator's cab in the train that collided with the train ahead of it did not have the speed readouts for it to keep proceeding on its path. So that is what is meant by speed commands being lost, where the speed readout providing the governing speed at which that train should be operating is lost. And so there is a specific rule that governs reestablishing movement in that instance. That rule is called Rule 3.79. And what we are asking for is an engineering solution in addition to the rule that governs the movement of a train when speed commands are lost. We are asking, and we've asked Metro to propose an engineering solution that addresses it permanently and eliminates it as an issue throughout the Metrorail track system.
Okay, thank you. That's very helpful. Are there any other questions from any of the commissioners for Ms. Samarasinha before we move to the next item? Okay, seeing none, the mic is yours again, Ms. Samarasinha, to give us an update on the Silver Line oversight.
Thank you, Chair Hart. So we are starting at slide number 1. Thank you, Avery. Chair Hart, in September last year, WMSC staff provided a comprehensive overview of its role in the start of revenue service on phase 2 of the Silver Line. Slide number 2. To recap quickly, the Silver Line Metrorail project extends Metrorail service to Dallas International Airport and to Ashburn in Loudoun County. The first phase to Willie Avenue, Reston East opened in July 2014. The second phase will add another 11 miles or so of track, 6 more stations, and a full rail yard near the airport. The principals on the project are the Metropolitan Washington Airports Authority and WMATA. The Federal Transit Administration, the Commonwealth of Virginia, and the local cities and counties along the project are key stakeholders on the project. The Airports Authority is responsible for designing and constructing the extension. Once the project has reached a predetermined level of completeness, Metrorail is responsible for accepting ownership of the line. Once Metrorail completes its pre-revenue testing and completes its safety certification verification responsibilities, the WMSC will evaluate WMATA's decision-making process and concur or not with WMATA's conclusions. The WMSC will make such determinations based on the WMSC's independent inspections and examinations of the project. Given our role, the extension cannot open to riders until the WMSC issues its concurrence that the project is ready. Metrorail has not set a specific target date for opening the line, but has been using next spring as its latest expectation for planning purposes. Slide number 3. Slide number 3 succinctly presents the critical milestones to this extension, starting revenue operations. The WMSC's oversight focus on this project is twofold. One is ensuring that the formal technical groups assembled for ensuring safety considerations are integrated into the project effectively. This is known as the safety certification process. Safety certification is a defined, documented discipline that is applied to ensure safety hazards are identified as the project progresses from preliminary engineering to design to construction to testing to pre-revenue readiness activities. The work ensures that these hazards are eliminated or minimized through industry accepted engineering remedies or through instituting rules and procedures. And 2, the WMSC is also focused on conducting independent inspections and verifications to ensure that it is well prepared to receive and evaluate the entire project for readiness for revenue operations. I will now hand it over to Tino Sahu, the WMSC subject matter expert for traction power, to present the remainder of the update of recent activities pertaining to these two focus areas. Mr. Sahu?
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Samarasinghe. So you'll see on the current slide, it shows some of the ways the WMSC have been conducting oversight and carrying out independent inspections since 2018. I would like to highlight 3 notable examples of WMSC field observations or inspections that have been done since our last update in September of 2019. In November, the WMSC automatic train control subject matter expert, Kemery Kendrick, observed tie-in testing at the Willie Reston East Station train control room. That work was and is still needed to change the Willie Reston East Station from a terminal station to a pass-through station. In February, WMSC personnel observed track cross-level remediation efforts in the interlockings. In March, the WMSC conducted an independent fire life safety assessment of all 6 new stations, wayside facilities, and the rail yard for code compliance, industry best practices, and consistency throughout the project. This rather extensive project was accomplished with the assistance of an outside consultant. We're reviewing and finalizing a report on this assessment. Dynamic testing is underway on the project currently. And since it began, the WMSC has been reviewing wayside test procedures. And once for Area 1, once the certain procedures are completed and test reports are submitted to the Airports Authority, the WMSC will, on an ongoing basis, independently assess the test reports for any anomalies. So if you can move on to the next slide. So the WMSC, again, on an ongoing basis, has an issues log with the Airports Authority that tracks safety issues on the project. We discuss this log weekly with the Airports Authority's System Safety and Security Certification Manager, as well as with the safety certification team at Metrorail. Currently, the safety issues and construction deficiencies listed in the presentation are being tracked. These issues will be mitigated before revenue operations commence. So I'll start with the first item listed. So as a result of a prior cap, all Metrorail's enclosed train wash locations are being retrofitted with the train wash track motion warning system. The WMSC has directed that the new rail yard at Dulles also have this system installed. The motion warning system provides employees a visual and audible notification that a train is moving through the train wash track. Second item. So another item we are tracking is integrity of the insulated joints, or IJs for short, in the rail yard. An insulated rail joint forms part of the train detection system and is used to divide the track into electrically isolated sections that are linked to the signaling system. Properly functioning insulated rail joints are required to determine the presence and position of a train for safe train movement. MWA is working with this contractor to remediate the IJs. Again, this is at the rail yard. Third issue listed. We're also tracking the issues with the concrete precast panels, or the precast concrete panels. This is a construction deficiency and is not considered a safety issue under the cooperative agreement between the Airports Authority and Metrorail. That agreement spells out a process for WMATA to bring safety issues to the attention of the Airports Authority for resolution. To date, that process has not been applied to this issue. However, the WMSC is monitoring MWA's progress in inspecting and remediating the concrete panels to ensure the intended service life will not be compromised. So we'll move on to the next issue listed, track cross level. So at interlockings, the Airports Authority's contractor is addressing cross level issues. This is also considered a construction deficiency, not a safety issue under the cooperative agreement. The WMSC is monitoring MWA and its contractors' efforts to institute more sophisticated tamping measures at each interlocking to achieve track cross level within required tolerances. So we'll move on to the next item listed. The next issue is switchgear safety signs on AC switchgear lineups in the traction power substations. During commissioning and testing done on phase 1 of the Silver Line, an issue with residual voltage was found on the electrical bus of the AC switchgear. The same manufacturer provided equipment for phase 2 of the Silver Line. A technical analysis by the manufacturer found that this is inherent with how vacuum breakers interact with the electrical bus. The WMSC has directed MWA to add warning signage. Rules and procedures will also be required to mitigate this risk and thus provide a safe environment for Metrorail employees to conduct their maintenance. As with other issues, the WMSC will do a final verification that all measures have in fact been instituted. And so the last issue listed is the ATC tie-in testing at Willie Reston East Metro Station. This connection is required to merge the automatic train control systems from Silver Line Phase 1 and Silver Line Phase 2. One aspect of this issue is specific software documentation that Metrorail, the Airports Authority, and its contractor are reconciling. The WMSC is conducting oversight of the Airports Authority's safety certification of the automatic train control system, including this tie-in location. According to the Airports Authority, this will be resolved in the coming months. Metrorail says the best window for completion of this tie-in work will be during this summer's Orange and Silver Line shutdown, scheduled from June to August. And I believe.
Thank you for that presentation. I'd like to ask you about when you referred to construction, things that were considered to be a construction deficiency, not a safety issue under the cooperative agreement. Could you explain how that worked when there's something, apparently that means we think it's a safety issue, but it's not defined that way in the agreement. So then what happens from there?
Right. So the way that safety certification is outlined by the FTA for SSOA, state safety oversight agencies, to conduct, our purview are safety issues. Obviously, if you want to say a construction deficiency is rooted in safety, or later on can lead to certain issues with safety, then that is something that's looked at. But these items are more in the realm of quality, and so we're letting MWA and which is the Airports Authority, and WMATA settle that. We're tracking the issue to make sure that they do not lead to safety issues later on when Metrorail is operating the system.
So we're not necessarily saying at this point we view it as a safety issue, but instead we're saying this is something that needs to be looked at, or else in order to make sure that it doesn't become a safety issue. Is that what you're saying?
That's correct, Chairman Hart. We have pointed out, and Mr. Sahu pointed out in his presentation, that there is a process for Metro and MWA to use if they want some of these quality issues to be considered a safety issue, and they have not used that process, and nor have we considered it necessary that they use that process. Ms. Samara Singha, do you have any correction to what I just said, or?
No, thank you, Dr. Meyer.
This is Mike Rush. Are you saying that, just to follow up on Chairman Hart's question, is it really an issue of almost service life? In other words, it's not an immediate safety issue, but down the road it could be? Is that really what we're talking about with these, with the items that Chairman Hart referred to?
So that is Metrorail's issue with the Airports Authority, is the service life of the concrete panels. I believe it's supposed to be 100-year service life. So that is their concern. So it comes down to an equality issue on those concrete panels. So that is the main concern with the concrete panels, and then with the cross level. As you operate the system more and more, your tolerances, if it's not built to zero, as they say, the further outside of your tolerances, and the more you operate the system, and the more the system ages, that those tolerances can get out of order, and that can lead to issues down the line.
So important issues, but not safety issues per se.
That's helpful. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
So do any other commissioners have any questions for Mr. Sahu regarding his presentation?
One other question, if I may. With regards to the issue on, I think you referred to it as residual current, is that the same as stray current, or is this something different?
So yeah, this is something different. It's residual voltage. I'll just quickly go into why there is residual voltage. So vacuum breakers are kind of the newest type of breakers. They're protective devices, and just the way they're built and how quickly they can react to a fault. The one downside is if one of those breakers were to trip, the way the breaker is constructed, it has these kind of stabs on the backside, and it locks into this energized piece of copper, which is called a bus. So if the breaker is racked in and there's a fault, the way the vacuum breaker acts as a capacitor, and so you have this residual voltage. Capacitor is just a mechanism, or is a device, electrical device that stores power. So you have this residual voltage issue, and one of the solutions is if the breaker is racked out, you no longer have that interaction between the bus and the vacuum breaker. So it's just a matter of there's not the engineering fix would be I think cost intensive, would take a while. So we're going to use warning signage and rules and procedures to mitigate that risk.
Thank you for that explanation. That was excellent. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Any further questions from commissioners for Mr. Sahu before we move on to the resolutions? Okay, seeing none, I turn the mic over to you, Dr. Meyer, regarding the resolutions that you mentioned in your opening remarks.
Thank you, Chair Hart. Today we are submitting the WMSC fiscal year 2021 work plan and budget before their commissioners and before the commissioners and seeking approval of it. This item was submitted and approved previously by the Finance and Operations Committee and then distributed accordingly to the jurisdictions. The work plan sets forth the WMSC's financial plans for our upcoming fiscal year, which starts on July 1st. It establishes an overall budget of $5.7 million for the WMSC, of which the largest share, almost 60%, goes to pay staff salaries and benefits. Our excellent staff is responsible for conducting and overseeing investigations, audits, inspections, and all of our other oversight activities. The document now also accurately reflects our new office space lease cost, which was not available when you first saw this in draft form back in November. So I would, at this time, urge the commissioners to approve our WMSC fiscal year 2021 budget.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Meyer. So in terms of a note on process in this remote meeting, I would ask each commissioner making or seconding a motion to also just state their name so that when you do that, so that Ms. Foltz can keep track of who's doing what, and the same with the vote when we take the vote on the motions. So I'll turn it over now to Ms. Foltz.
And Ms. Foltz, if you could say the resolution number also, I don't know if that was on the record.
Yes, indeed. This is resolution WMSC R 2021-03, the fiscal year 2021 work program and budget.
So is there a motion from any of the commissioners to approve?
Mike Rush moves to approve.
I'll second.
Thank you. There's a motion and a second. Any discussion on the motion? Okay, then I will ask General Counsel Foltz to conduct a recorded vote.
Okay, Chairman Hart.
In favor?
Thank you. Commissioner Bob.
Favor.
Thank you. Commissioner Contestable.
In favor?
Thank you. Commissioner Farrar-Dyke.
In favor.
Thank you. Vice Chairman Hull.
In favor.
Alternate Commissioner Al-Khatib. Commissioner Al-Khatib, I believe you're on mute. You may have stepped away for a moment. And alternate Commissioner Rush.
Favor.
Thank you. The motion carries and the budget has been adopted.
I didn't think it would come out this early. Rhonda, PM told me that it was the other ones that were going to be advertised at the time and not secured.
Commissioner Al-Khatib, okay, thank you. That counts.
Okay, thank you. So the motion passes. Now we'll move on to our next resolution, which would authorize the CEO to issue and maintain as needed the new investigation protocol as a directive and order. As explained earlier, this protocol outlines how we will ensure the collection of all data, our participation in interviews remotely if necessary, and other measures to ensure the integrity of the investigation that we as commissioners approve. The protocol is in and of itself a safety measure since it will reduce the need for our own experts and Metrorail investigators to be in close quarters. That will allow for adequate social distancing, and we are proud to be leading the way for state safety oversight agencies across the country in development of these procedures to respond to the COVID. Is there a motion to improve? Actually, is everybody familiar with that resolution?
Yes.
Yes.
Resolution? Okay, is there a motion to approve? It's resolution 2020-3, in case that number has not been on the record yet.
Actually, it's, the numbering has been updated since we issued the script, so it would be resolution 2020-4 to issue the directive and order.
Apologies for that.
Okay, is there a motion to approve R 2020-4?
So move.
Thank you. Any second?
Second.
Okay, thank you. Any discussion on the motion?
I'm sorry, I didn't see who moved.
Mr. Bob
Thank you.
and Commissioner Hall seconded.
Okay, I have that. We're now ready to conduct the vote. Chairman Hart,
Approve.
We now have our WMATA contract as a sub-department.
Commissioner Bob,
Approve.
Anyway, but
Commissioner Contestable.
Rami, who's your guy?
Approve.
Thank you. Commissioner Farrar Dyke.
Just carry the same team
Approve.
from WMATA over to VRE.
And if somebody has a radio on in the background, if you could please mute. Vice Chairman Hull.
Approve.
Thank you. Alternate Commissioner Al-Khatib.
Approve.
Thank you. And alternate Commissioner Rush.
Contract
Approve.
administrator though, right?
Thank you. The motion carries.
Ms. Hogan, do we know where the extraneous sound is coming from, and is there a way to take care of that?
I do, and I keep muting.
Okay, thank you.
It's muted.
So that motion passes. Now we have one additional resolution on our agenda, which is to the approval to proceed with a furniture procurement for the commission's new office space. This has also been reviewed, has previously been reviewed by and approved by the Finance and Operations Committee and is now ready for commissioner vote. So what's the number on that one, Ms. Foltz?
This would be Resolution 2020-05.
Okay, are all the commissioners familiar with Resolution R 2020-5? Okay, is there a motion to approve it?
Also move.
Okay, Commissioner Hall moves to approve. Any second?
I second. Mike Rush.
Okay, Commissioner Rusk seconds. Any discussion on the motion? Okay, seeing none, I will ask General Counsel Foltz to conduct our recorded vote.
Okay, Commissioner Bob.
Approve.
Thank you. Commissioner Contestable.
Approve.
Thank you. Commissioner Farrar Dyke.
Approve.
Thank you. Chairman Hart.
Approve.
Thank you. Vice Chairman Hull.
Approve.
Thank you. Alternate Commissioner Al-Khatib.
Approve.
Thank you. And alternate Commissioner Rush.
Approve.
Thank you. And that motion carries as well.
Okay, Dr. Meyer, is that all the resolutions we have for today's meeting?
Yes, sir. That is all of the business that the staff have brought forward for today.
Okay, is there any more business or discussion for this meeting today from any of the commissioners? Okay, seeing none, I would again like to remind everyone that you can always report any concerns or otherwise get in touch with us through our website, wmsc.gov, through social media channels like Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, or by email. If there is no other business, and I'm going to ask once more, is there any further business? I'm asked the commissioners, is there any further business? Okay, if there is no further business, this concludes our public meeting for today. The next public meeting of the commission is currently planned for Thursday, June 18th, 2020, and we will see as the time passes whether that's going to be another remote meeting. Is there a motion to adjourn this meeting?
So moved.
Second?
A second.
Okay, moved and seconded. I will now ask General Counsel Fultz to call the roll on the motion for adjournment.
Thank you, Commissioner Bob.
Approve.
Commissioner Contestable,
Approve.
It says CSX will provide ballast and track installation along the signal.
Commissioner Farrar Dyke,
Approve.
Chairman Hart,
Approve.
Vice Chairman Hull,
Approve.
thank you. Alternate Commissioner Al-Khatib
Approve.
and Alternate Commissioner Rush.
Approve.
Thank you.
Thank you. I will now adjourn this remote meeting with my remote gavel. Adjourned. Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for attending. Thanks to the members of the public who attended as well.